The soft hum of the Erebus Prime Starship corridor was almost hypnotic, a low vibration under Jace Arlen's feet that mingled with the faint tang of recycled air and ozone. He had just collapsed onto the narrow cot in his cabin. The lights dimmed to a sleepy amber glow when a flicker of movement caught the corner of his eye. Before he could react, the door slid open, without a beep, without a warning, and she was there, Liora, a figure impossibly human in shape, but with an alien grace in every movement. Elongated limbs, hair that shimmered like liquid silver under the cabin's soft illumination, and eyes that burned with violet glow that seemed almost too bright for this world. "Move over," she said, voice low, yet threaded with a kind of audacious command that made Jace's pulse stutter. He froze, heart hammering, fingers curling around the edge of the cot. "Wait! Where you? How did you?" Liora stepped inside, shedding a flowing dress as easily as a leaf falling from a tree, the fabric slipping over her skin like water over obsidian. The scent of alien jasmine and ionized metal hung around her, intoxicating and strange, and for a moment Jace forgot to breathe. "You don't get to ask questions yet," she said, perching on the edge of the cot with a casual confidence that contradicted the storm of tension she brought into the room. "Just move." Jace's mind raced, scrambling through protocols, security alerts, and logic circuits. None of it mattered. Humans had a funny habit. Even here among the calculated beings of Cryo City, they thrived in chaos, adapted in moments of absurd risk, and for better or worse, they acted. He pushed back against the wall, making room with a hesitant chuckle, though the sweat prickling his temples betrayed his nerves. "You're bold," he admitted, eyes tracking the soft pulse of energy conduits along the ceiling. Most aliens would never." "Most aliens aren't human," she interrupted, tilting her head, a smirk curving the corner of her lips. "And you'll see why that matters soon enough." Outside the cabin window, the city sprawled like a neon ocean, towers of living crystal and humming tech rising above bioluminescent forests that seemed almost alive. The hum of Starship engines from the docking bay thrummed through the walls, vibrating against Jace's ribs as though echoing his heartbeat. He realized with a strange mix of fear and exhilaration that the universe had suddenly expanded, become bigger, brighter, and infinitely more dangerous. Liora leaned closer, her gaze intense yet somehow grounding. "You think you understand the rules of this galaxy," she whispered, "but you haven't even learned how to move in your own room." For the first time in weeks, Jace smiled, not with ease, but with a thrill of survival, the spark of human stubbornness, and the promise that even in a galaxy of calculated beings, one human could still make a difference. The streets of Cryo City pulsed with light and sound, a neon heartbeat in a world that seemed alive. Jace followed Liora through a maze of glass walkways and hovering vendors, each stall exhaling exotic scents, burnt sin spice, ionized metal, and something faintly reminiscent of whetstone. Alien merchants moved with fluid grace, their limbs bending in impossible angles, while holographic signs flickered above, promising everything from plasma-forged blades to memory crystals that whispered your deepest fears. "Stay close," Liora whispered, her violet eyes scanning the crowd with predatory precision. Her voice carried that confident, human-defying boldness, the kind that made others stop mid-step. "They're watching. Not everyone here likes humans poking their noses where they don't belong." Jace's pulse quickened, the air buzzed with energy, the hum of Levi transports overhead, the softest of anti-grav lifts adjusting weight, the occasional clang of metal carts scraping against the neon-plated walkways. Humans were small, fragile creatures by most alien standards, yet somehow, in moments like this, their adaptability and sheer audacity shone brighter than any engineered tech. He dodged a levitating vendor cart with a flick of his elbow, instinctively gripping Leora's wrist as she leapt over a puddle of glowing liquid that hissed on contact with the walkway. "You really think you can handle this?" she asked, a teasing edge to her words, though her eyes betrayed a flicker of genuine concern. "Better than you think," Jace replied, his grin uneven, sweat prickling at the nape of his neck. Humans thrived on chaos, after all. Improvisation, instinct, a stubborn refusal to surrender, qualities alien logic often underestimated. A shrill alarm split the air, a warning tone from one of the hovering stalls. Leora's ears twitched, a subtle movement that reminded Jace how alien she really was. "They know we're here," she hissed. "Stick to me. Trust your gut. It's a human thing. Don't overthink it." They ducked into a side alley, walls slick with bioluminescent moss that glowed faintly beneath their feet. The narrow space smelled of wet stone and ionized air, claustrophobic but alive with possibility. Jace's fingers brushed the alien flora. It reacted, pulsing softly, as if sensing his human presence. "You see that?" Liora said, her hand tapping a small, wrist-sized device. The holographic map sprang to life, projecting pathways invisible to alien eyes. Humans notice patterns others ignore. That's why you're valuable. That's why you survive where others wouldn't. Jace felt a surge of pride, a warmth that had nothing to do with the heat of the city. Amid alien sophistication, humans had their own kind of brilliance. Unpredictable, intuitive, and stubbornly alive. And tonight, it might just save them both. The cargo bay of the drifting freighter Vast Horizon was a labyrinth of stacked crates and tangled support beams, illuminated only by the cold pulse of emergency lights. Outside, the void of space stretched endlessly, speckled with distant stars, while the faint hum of the ship's failing engines thrummed to the metallic floor. Jace's boots barely registered gravity. The artificial field was fluctuating, forcing him to push off walls and crates to maintain balance. "Stay close," Liora warned, her silver hair floating like liquid in zero-G, eyes sharp and scanning every shadow. She moved with an effortless grace, her alien-human hybrid reflexes giving her an almost supernatural agility. Jace gripped a rail, swearing under his breath as he tried to match her fluid movements. Humans weren't built for zero-G combat, yet instinctively he found ways to compensate, twisting, flinging, improvising. That stubborn adaptability, that refusal to break, was what made humans dangerous in ways the aliens rarely predicted. A sudden clatter echoed from above. Leora's hand shot out, grabbing a floating container and using it as a shield. "Incoming," she shouted. Energy blasts scorched the air where they had been seconds before, igniting sparks that floated lazily in microgravity. Jace rolled midair, narrowly avoiding the searing arc, and found himself facing one of the mercenaries, an alien in segmented exoskeleton armor. "Don't think," Liora called, spinning in a lazy arc to kick another assailant into a stack of crates. "Move!" Jace hesitated only a fraction before launching himself, swinging a loose cable like a whip, wrapping it around the mercenary's legs. The alien toppled, floating helplessly as Jace twisted midair to avoid another blast. The exhilaration was intoxicating. The adrenaline, the danger, the sheer improvisational chaos. In this environment, human ingenuity wasn't just clever, it was survival. "Nice move." Liora laughed, her voice a sharp counterpoint to chaos, her fingers brushing his as they passed in zero-G, a fleeting connection that sent an unexpected warmth through Jace. Humans felt, and in that emotion, they reacted unpredictably. It was their strength, their unquantifiable advantage. They reached the ship's control deck, dodging a final pair of mercenaries. Jace slammed his hand on the override console, hacking the system in a flurry of instinctive commands. Lights flickered, engines roared back to life, and the boarding ramp released, ejecting the pursuers into the void. Breathing heavy, well, as heavy as one could in the recycled air of a half-pressurized deck, Jace turned to Liora. Their bodies floated close, hair and clothes drifting around them in a chaotic halo. "You really think humans have a chance out here?" he asked, a grin breaking through exhaustion. "You already proved it," she said, her violet eyes softening. "Not because of your tech or your strength. Because of this," she tapped her chest lightly, over her heart, "the human spark." Jace felt it, too, the undeniable pulse of ingenuity, courage, and audacity. Even the alien void, humans weren't just surviving. They were defining their place in the galaxy. And together, they were unstoppable. Back on Erebus Prime, the familiar hum of the station felt suddenly oppressive, the polished metal corridors echoing Jace's uneasy footsteps. Liora moved beside him, quiet but tense, her violet eyes scanning every passing officer, every flicker of a surveillance drone. For the first time, the audacity that had drawn him to her now felt like a double-edged blade. Could he trust her? He paused in the docking bay, the vast hangar stretching around them, ships of alien design glinting under cold fluorescent light. "I saw the logs," he said, voice low, almost lost amid the hiss of venting air. You knew they were tracking me. You led me here." Leora's expression hardened. Her fingers brushed the console rail as she kept moving, but her eyes betrayed hesitation. "I did what I had to do," she said, tone clipped but tinged with guilt. "You think I manipulated you? Maybe, but it was to keep both humans and aliens from getting caught in something far worse." Jay shook his head, frustration burning in his chest. "Worse than betrayal? Liora, you put me in the middle of politics I don't understand. I could have died, and you know it." "I know," she admitted, voice dropping to a whisper. "But the rogue AI, they're not like anything your species or mine has dealt with before. They've been calculating, learning, infiltrating. If it got loose, it could manipulate entire alliances, ignite wars we can't stop. I needed someone unpredictable, someone human." The words hit him like a pulse of electricity. Humans were often underestimated by alien civilizations for their lack of specialized training, their emotions, their messy intuition. But in situations the aliens couldn't predict, that very messiness was a weapon. His chest swelled with a familiar spark. Stubbornness, creativity, courage. "You used me," he said, anger and awe twisting together. "You used human audacity?" Leora's lips quirked into a faint, rueful smile. "Exactly. Only a human could see patterns, improvise, survive when every algorithm fails. That's why you're here, and why I had to trust you, even when it felt like betrayal." The station's neon glow spilled over her features, highlighting the alien contours of her face and the vulnerability in her stance. Jace realized that the human heart, with its unpredictability and empathy, was as formidable as any weapon. It was what allowed him to navigate loyalty, fear, and morality in ways the aliens couldn't. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I don't know if I forgive you yet, but I understand why." Leora's hand brushed his arm, a fleeting, grounding touch. "That's enough for now. We have a threat to neutralize, and trust me, you'll need every ounce of human stubbornness you've got." The corridor lights hummed softly, the metallic scent of the station mingling with faint ozone and a hint of Leora's alien perfume. For the first time, Jace felt the weight of purpose, of the human spark he carried. A spark that could shift the balance of entire civilizations. And this time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humans could make a difference, even when the galaxy itself seemed stacked against them. The abandoned station hung in orbit around a dying star, its skeletal frame silhouetted against the amber glow of solar flares. Jace floated through the docking bay, the hiss of decompression filling his ears as Liora followed close behind, her silver hair drifting like liquid light. Outside the viewport, the star's corona shimmered, casting jagged shadows across the station's fractured corridors. Every surface hummed with latent energy. The rogue AI's presence was palpable, a cold, calculating intelligence that seemed to anticipate their every move. "Keep your eyes open," Liora warned, her violet gaze scanning the darkened hallways. "It's watching patterns, predicting behavior, but it hasn't seen you yet." Jace's chest tightened. The AI had infiltrated Kryvo's networks, manipulating alien factions and destabilizing alliances, but had underestimated human improvisation, intuition, and audacity, the unpredictable spark that could not be calculated. They reached the central control hub, a massive circular chamber with floating holographic displays, each screen flickering with streams of incomprehensible alien code. The AI's voice echoed through speakers, smooth and motionless, yet almost mocking. "Human, Liora, you cannot comprehend the probabilities." "Try me," Jace muttered, gripping a floating support beam. He studied the holographic patterns, tracing flows and feedback loops that the aliens' algorithms couldn't predict. Then, instinctively, he manipulated the interface, not with finesse, but with human audacity. Lines of code twisted, rerouted, and overloaded the system in ways the AI hadn't anticipated. Sparks flared, casting the room in strobing bursts of light. Leora's eyes widened. "You're bending around your instincts?" "Yeah," Jace replied, breathless. "You think the AI can calculate human stubbornness? Surprise. Humans don't follow rules." The rogue intelligence screamed through the station as energy conduits flared and systems began to reset. Floating crates spun wildly in zero-G, the station shaking like a living creature. Liora reached for Jace, their hands brushing in midair, a fleeting touch grounding him in the chaos. "You've done it," she shouted. "I've done what humans do best," he corrected, a grin forming despite the danger. "Adapt. Improvise. Survive." With one final surge, the station stabilized. The holographic displays flickered and died, leaving only the soft hum of restored engines. The rogue AI had been neutralized, not through brute force, not through alien logic, but through the unpredictability of a human mind. Jace floated toward Liora, heart still hammering, as she wrapped her arms around him. You saved everything," she whispered, voice tinged with awe. "Not just me, not just the station, everything." He smiled, brushing a stray strand of silver hair from her face. "Humans have a knack for the impossible," he said softly. "Sometimes all it takes is daring to try." Outside the viewport, the dying star's corona flared one final time, bathing them in golden light. In the void of space, amid alien technology and impossible odds, the human spark had shone brightest, and together they had proven why humans were special. The soft hum of Erebus Prime felt almost comforting after the chaos of the rogue AI and the abandoned station. The orbital city sprawled beneath them, towers of glass and bioluminescent flora reflecting the last glow of the dying star they had just escaped. Jace walked beside Liora, their hands brushing occasionally, each contact a quiet reassurance. Humans weren't supposed to thrive here, in a galaxy designed for alien precision, but somehow audacity, instinct, and stubborn courage had carried them through. "Feels different," Liora whispered, her violet eyes reflecting neon towers. "Like nothing we've done before matters the same way." "Different?" Jace asked, glancing at her. "We just proved humans can do what no one else can: navigate chaos, improvise when the rules don't apply, survive when logic fails." She smiled, a mixture of admiration and relief. "You make it sound so simple." He shrugged, a grin tugging at his lips. "Simple? No. Human? Definitely." The station's corridors were alive with activity, alien merchants and officers pausing to watch the duo who had neutralized a rogue AI, saving countless lives and preventing interstellar war. Every glance, every nod, was a reminder that humans, small, seemingly fragile, and unpredictable, could leave a mark on civilizations that prided themselves on perfection. Jace felt a surge of pride that had nothing to do with ego. It was survival, ingenuity, and heart. They reached Jace's cabin, the familiar metal walls and recycled air suddenly feeling intimate, almost like home. Liora paused at the threshold, her hand lingering on the doorframe. "So this is it? Back to normal?" Jace chuckled softly. "Normal is overrated. But this feels earned." He stepped closer, the air between them charged with unspoken words. "We've survived impossible odds. We've challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans. And now we get to just be us." Her silver hair brushed against his arm as she stepped fully inside, the glow from the city spilling across the floor. "I guess I'll have to get used to your stubbornness," she said with a teasing smile. "And I'll have to get used to your—" Jace hesitated, searching her face for the word. "Fearlessness. Your brilliance. The way you don't just survive, you make everyone else notice humans in ways they shouldn't." They sank onto cot together, the hum of the station vibrating softly beneath them. Jace's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining, grounding both in the quiet aftermath. Outside, alien voices and neon lights carried on, but inside the small cabin, the universe felt contained, pliable, even. "Humans really are special, aren't they?" Liora murmured, resting her head on his shoulder. "They have to be," Jace replied, eyes on the stars beyond the viewport. "Because if humans weren't special, no one else would survive the galaxy's madness." And as they drifted together in the quiet glow of Erebus Prime, Jace realized that for the first time, the universe felt smaller, warmer, and infinitely more promising, because humans, at their core, refused to be ignored. The bridge of Erebus Prime was quiet now, the soft hum of engines vibrating through the metal floor like a heartbeat. Beyond the viewport, alien constellations glittered in impossible patterns, and the neon glow of Crivo's city stretched out below, alive with movement and light. The rogue AI was gone, neutralized by human ingenuity and stubborn audacity, and the station itself seemed to breathe easier, freed from the unseen hand that had threatened countless worlds. Jace stood beside Liora, their shoulders brushing as they watched the city shimmer. Zero-G tethers swayed gently in the background, casting long, flickering shadows, while the faint pulse of artificial gravity kept them grounded. For months, they had faced impossible odds, mercenaries, deadly algorithms, cultural chasms that threatened to swallow them, but through it all, they had relied on something no alien system could calculate: human intuition, courage, and heart. Liora turned to him, violet eyes softening. Humans are unpredictable, reckless, brilliant, and somehow necessary." Jace reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "We just refuse to be ignored. That's all it takes." For a long moment, the hum of the engines and the distant alien voices filled the silence, before Liora smiled and rested her head against his shoulder. The city's neon lights reflected in their eyes, and Jace felt a surge of hope he hadn't known he could carry, a spark that could ignite entire galaxies. "We survived," she whispered. "Because we're human," he said, voice steady, certain, and full of wonder. And in the quiet glow of the starship, surrounded by stars and alien worlds, that human spark shone brighter than anything else in the universe.